Kings, King Jehu of Israel. King Jehoshaphat of Judah. After the death of King Jehoshaphat of Judah, his son King Jehoram succeeded him as king of Judah. King Ahaziah of Israel. After the death of King Ahaziah of Israel, his brother King Joram, son of Ahab, succeeded him as king of Israel. King Jehoram of Judah. In previous videos, we saw about King Jehoram of Judah that he had 6 brothers whom he killed all of them and became king. And also he married Israel's king Ahab's daughter and followed wicked example of King Ahab. Jehoram had become king at the age of 32 and had ruled in Jerusalem for 8 years. Nobody was sorry when he died. They buried him in David's city, but not in the royal tombs. King Ahaziah of Judah. So now the people of Jerusalem made Ahaziah king as his father's successor. Ahaziah became king at the age of 22 and he ruled in Jerusalem for 1 year. King Joram of Israel. In the 12th year of the reign of Joram, son of Ahab and brother of King Ahaziah of Israel, Ahaziah, son of Jehoram, became king of Judah. King Ahaziah of Judah joined King Joram of Israel in a war against King Hazael of Syria. The armies clashed at Ramoth in Gilead, and Joram was wounded in battle. He returned to the city of Jezreel to recover from his wounds. Meanwhile, the prophet Elisha called one of the young prophets and said to him, "Get ready to go to Ramoth in Gilead. Take this jar of olive oil with you, and when you get there, look for Jehu, the son of Jehoshaphat and grandson of Nimshi. Take him to a private room away from his companions, pour this olive oil on his head and say, 'The Lord proclaims that he anoints you king of Israel.'" So the young prophet did as Elisha told him to do. When Jehu's fellow officers came to know that the Lord proclaims him as the king of Israel, at once they spread their cloaks at the top of the steps for Jehu to stand on, blew trumpets and shouted, "Jehu is king." King Jehu of Israel. Then Jehu plotted against King Joram, who was in Jezreel, where he had gone to recover from the wounds which he had received in the battle at Ramoth against King Hazael of Syria. King Ahaziah of Judah. Joram was still not recovered, and King Ahaziah of Judah was there visiting him. A guard on duty in the watchtower at Jezreel saw Jehu and his men approaching, and he reported this to King Joram of Israel. Then King Joram ordered to get his chariot. Then he and King Ahaziah of Judah rode out, each in his chariot, to meet Jehu. They met him, and King Joram asked him, "Are you coming in peace?" Then Jehu answered, "How can there be peace when we still have all the witchcraft and idolatry that your mother Jezebel started?" Then King Joram came to know that said treason. So he cried to King Ahaziah. Then King Ahaziah of Judah turned his chariot round and fled. Jehu drew his bow and with all his strength shot an arrow that struck Joram in the back and pierced his heart. Joram fell dead in his chariot, and so Jehu became king of Israel. As Jehu was carrying out God's sentence on the dynasty, he came across a group made up of Judean leaders and of Ahaziah's nephews. Jehu killed them all. A search was made for Ahaziah, and he was found hiding in Samaria. They took him to Jehu and put him to death. No member of Ahijah's family was left who could rule the kingdom. Boy King Joash of Judah. After the death of King Ahijah of Judah, we saw in the previous videos that what had happened to Queen Athaliah, about Ahijah's half-sister Jehoshaphat and her husband priest Jehoiada, and the boy king Joash of Judah. King Joram of Israel was killed. King Ahijah of Judah was killed. Queen Jezebel was killed. The descendants of Ahab were killed. The relatives of King Ahijah were killed. All remaining relatives of Ahab were killed. The worshippers of Baal were also killed. That was how Jehu wiped out everyone who followed the wicked example of King Ahab of Israel, who worshipped Baal. But he imitated the sin of King Jeroboam, who led Israel into the sin of worshipping the gold bull calves he set up in Bethel and in Dan. The Lord said to Jehu, "You have done to Ahab's descendants everything I wanted you to do. So I promise you that your descendants down to the 4th generation will be kings of Israel." The death of King Jehu of Israel. At that time, the Lord began to reduce the size of Israel's territory. King Hazael of Syria conquered all the Israelite territory east of the Jordan as far south as the town of Eror on the river Arnon. This included the territories of Gilead and Bashan, where the tribes of Gad, Reuben, and East Manasseh lived. Everything else that Jehu did, including his brave deeds, is recorded in the history of the kings of Israel. He died and was buried in Samaria, and his son Jehoahaz succeeded him as king. Jehu had ruled in Samaria as king of Israel for 28 years. Boy King Joash of Judah. At that time, King Hazael of Syria attacked the city of Gath and conquered it. Then he decided to attack Jerusalem. King Joash of Judah took all offerings and all the gold in the treasuries of the temple and the palace and sent them all as a gift to King Hazael, who then led his army away from Jerusalem. 2 of his officials plotted against King Joash and killed him at the house built on the land that was filled in on the east side of Jerusalem. King Jehoahaz of Israel. In the 23rd year of the reign of King Joash, Jehoahaz, son of Jehu, became king of Israel, and he ruled in Samaria for 17 years. Like King Jeroboam, he too sinned against the Lord and led Israel into sin. So the Lord was angry with Israel, and he allowed King Hazael of Syria and his son Ben-Hadad to defeat Israel time after time. Then Jehoahaz prayed to the Lord, and the Lord, seeing how harshly the king of Syria was oppressing the Israelites, answered his prayer. The Lord sent Israel a leader who freed them from the Syrians, and so the Israelites lived in peace. Everything else that King Joash did was recorded in the history of the kings of Judah. Joash died and was buried in the royal tombs in David's city, and his son Amaziah succeeded him as king. Everything else that Jehoahaz did and all his brave deeds are recorded in the history of the kings of Israel. He died and was buried in Samaria, and his son Jehoash succeeded him as king.